if you're running around without training or any way to defend yourself with a $5,000 backpack full of survival gear, you're going to look like fresh meat to somebody who's experienced firearms and sees you as an opportunity. As Wayne LaPierre said, the only way to stop a bad guy with a gun is a good guy with a gun. So it's very important to learn. And in the United States, it's one of our rights to keep and bear arms. In other countries in the world, if the government turns sour, and starts coming after their citizens for whatever reason, they have no way to protect themselves. And it's happened throughout history.
Hello, everyone, and welcome. This is a great conversation today, talking with Roman Zrazhevskiy from We Did Endgame. But I think we're going to talk not just about preparedness and for Endgame, but for a way you could also be preparing yourself financially in different ways through an entrepreneurial spirit. So, Roman, thanks for showing up today. Your segment on Endgame was fantastic with Patrick. We'll talk a bit about that even more if people didn't see that interview. But we also want to talk about not just preparedness for our crisis, whatever's going on in the world today, but other ways that we could also, from an entrepreneurial perspective, start to create ways of preparing ourselves financially for the future. So thanks for taking the time today.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me on. I look forward to chatting with you.
So your story's great. I'm going to let you tell it in a minute, but what I love about your entrepreneurial spirit is seeing problems and seeing crises, seeing ways to help people, and then seeing the opportunity in that for yourself and others. So with that in mind, tell us a little bit about how you got into preparedness. You've got two great websites. We'll talk about it. I may even pop them up here on a screen share. I was just going through it before here. Really cool stuff. But tell us a little bit about your background, your story, and why you do what you do.
Sure. So, the reason I got into preparedness, there was two distinct events that happened in my life, which kind of led me to thinking that preparedness was important. One of them was going through the Chernobyl incident. I was born in Moscow, Russia. And although my direct family was not affected by it, there were, family, friends, and other people who were, and it was always discussed in family circles, what we could have done to prepare, to mitigate the situation, et cetera. And then in high school, my high school was actually right across the water from the Twin Towers when they went down. And, my friends and I were witness to it and saw the whole thing go down. And there I did have, a lot of people get affected by it, they were really close to me. And I realized that if on that day, the victims had something so simple as an N95 respirator or some other type of, even more advanced respirator, like a full face gas mask, we wouldn't have had so many cases of mesothelioma and 9/11 syndrome, as they call it. Because you could only, there's the rule of threes. You could survive 3 weeks without food, 3 days without water, and only 3 minutes without air, right? And air is really the most vital one. So that's how I got into it. And, I personally got into preparedness. I got interested in it, started building out a bug out bag and all these other things, getting into weapons training. And then my buddy and I decided, hey, why not just slap together a website and try to, these bug out bags that we're making, why not offer them to the world at large? And it was built on like a really cheap, like GeoCities, like very simple website. The payment gateway wasn't even working. And luckily enough, we met a New York Times reporter within like 3 weeks of launching the website, while we were just going out and kind of surveying customers and going to meetups. And he ended up featuring us in the cover of the Metro section of the New York Times. And overnight, we had like $40,000 in sales. And, that led to just a tremendous amount of income coming in. So, and based on that, we continued, grew it, and, and eventually evolved Ready to Go Survival, which is personalized bug out bags. And then I pivoted to do more personal protective equipment and gas mask, which was the original reason really why I created a preparedness business.
Okay. Two questions now. You mentioned it, and I mentioned it in your last interview as well, Chernobyl. You weren't born yet, but what was that experience like? We heard of, I'm a little older than you, so I actually remember when that happened. But what was the fallout for that locally? What was like, What was what was like growing up? What was those conversations? Were people sick? Was there obvious residual from that accident?
Well, I learned more about the residuals of that accident moving to the US because I immigrated when I was 6 years old. Because at that time it was still Soviet Union, so they weren't really sharing information. It's like, oh yeah, this little mishap happened and a nuclear reactor almost melted down, and don't worry, we're evacuating people and everyone's going to be okay,
Right.
But once you hear the other side of the story, which is no, it's not okay, and this radiation actually spread to Ukraine, and uh, large parts of Belarusia are no longer inhabitable. It's called the exclusion zone now, and a lot of radiation actually went into Europe as well and spiked radiation levels. Once you hear the full story, then it becomes very concerning because there are hundreds of nuclear reactors all around the world. And, a lot of them are in disrepair. If you look at certain reports on nuclear reactors, and something could happen. Should you live your life in fear, worried that something will happen? No. The way I mitigate any concern for myself is I prepare. So if there's a thing that I see as a potential threat, I prepare for it. And it gets me prepared, and I get peace of mind, right? And that's my philosophy behind preparedness.
Cool. Well, thanks for telling. Because I felt the same way. We didn't hear much, but I thought maybe you knew a little more. But I guess it's pretty locked down over there. So then 9/11 happens. You're in high school. When you say across the water, were you in Brooklyn or were you in Jersey?
Brooklyn.
Right, because I'm in Jersey. So I mean, that's
okay, nice.
we're all in Jersey. This happened. So these are things that you would have thought could have happened in front of you. That plume of smoke for weeks, whatever was going up into the atmosphere, people were breathing that. You see it as an opportunity. Many people we know, and the reason I'm saying this is because I live here now. Are you still in the area?
No, I'm in Austin, Texas now.
Oh, okay.
I moved about 4 years
People
ago.
are sick all the time, and there's lawsuits all the time, and there's mesothelioma, and we see it on the news all the time. 9/11, they just extended that time people could put it. So this is real stuff that's going on here. And what I love is that, yeah, you're an entrepreneur, but you're looking at wants and needs of people around us. And quite honestly, preparedness, it's kind of gotten a buzz, it's kind of getting some interest now. But the reality is most people are not prepared. I was a Boy Scout as well. But you've obviously taken it to the next level, right? Where you're actually thinking, planning, and then creating businesses around having this stuff available.
Yeah.
So you were doing that before. And I know the next thing that happens was Hurricane Sandy, which I lived through as well, right? And no one was prepared for that. What was going on?
And that's actually right where I started my business. It was right after Hurricane Sandy. We started getting phone calls from all our friends and like, hey, I know you guys are into preparedness. What do I need? Where could I get stuff? Do you have any spare equipment? And at that point we decided like, hey, this is probably a good idea because there's so many people interested in equipment like this. And it seems like there's no place to find it, in a cohesive kind of way. So we started making these like emergency pre-made go bags. And then that eventually led to customized go bags based on your personal situation, how many family members you have, where you live, a number of factors.
So I'm looking at, and I might as well share while I'm talking about it. I'll share my screen because I think it's just, so this one's ready to go survival, right? So there's two companies. One's Myra Safety. So what's the difference? Because at first blush, it seems to me there's a bit of crossover. Maybe my eyes not seeing it, but what is the Ready to Go Survival all about?
Yeah, so Ready to Go Survival is basically the Stitch Fix of preparedness. So if you ever go on Stitch Fix, it's a personalized online tailor. You answer a whole bunch of questions, and then based on how you answer, a stylist gets back to you and gets you prepared, gets you a whole bunch of clothing. So we do something similar, but with preparedness equipment. Where somebody fills out a questionnaire, tells us all about their personal situation, and then based on that, we craft a kit for them, and then also give them consulting and walk them through it, help them create an emergency plan, et cetera. But we're now pivoting away from equipment with this business to doing blogging plus consulting. So it's just going to be a consulting service. We're not going to actually send you the equipment, but we're going to give you all links to all the equipment that you need. And the Myra Safety is a PPE company. So we sell gas masks and personal protective equipment. And our customers are regular civilians who are just looking to prepare. But we're also doing a lot of agency contracts with police, fire departments, global militaries, et cetera. And this is just really kind of focused on one product line, which is gas masks, body armor, PPE, filters, and kind of all that type of thing.
So you kind of hit it on the head, because I'm thinking you buy this stuff, you may feel comfortable to have a cool black bag with some cool tech ops stuff in a bag, but if you don't know how to use it, it's not going to be much use. So let's talk a little bit about, obviously people are purchasing it, but what is your interaction with people? What are people coming to you with? What are some of the common problems, and how are you helping them with the equipment as well as the information?
Sure. So we have a few preparedness specialists doing this, and most of these preparedness specialists are retired military guys who are just doing this kind of part-time to supplement their income, and this is what they love to do. So, the goal is to have a lot of veterans and people who have worked in industries of preparedness where they had to be prepared, who are interested in this stuff, to be the preparedness consultants.
Cool website, and I'm the end result for actually all of the revealed films. I'm into all this stuff, right? But for me, getting prepared, buying, so I would buy this stuff. Great, I've got the kit, put it in the house, but then it's like, what needs to be learned how to use. Let's face it, if you have to turn a mask on, or you just use it. Like, what are some of the common misunderstandings of when they get the kit, as opposed to what do they need to learn how to use to be prepared, not just have the stuff, but what do they need to know?
Yeah, that's a great question. So what we advocate and what we send as part of the service is some classes that we recommend they take. So we definitely recommend taking a basic first aid class, and at least a basic rifle and pistol class, so you could understand how to use weapons and defend yourself. Because, in case of emergency, if you're running around without training or any way to defend yourself with a, $5,000 backpack full of survival gear, you're going to look like, fresh meat to somebody who's experienced firearms and sees you as an opportunity.
And specifically, like the NRA has, I think it's first pistol. I took that class. You get certified, and they teach you how to, whether it's a revolver or pistol, and they do some, which I think is so interesting. I think the best part is learning about your tech. Like, it's one thing to have stuff, but to go through the process, learn safety, learn how to shoot, learn how to reload, understand the mechanism behind, whether it be a firearm or whether it be whatever equipment you're talking about. Like, it's fun to learn how it works.
Oh, it's absolutely fun. It's great. Shooting is a big stress reliever for me personally, and many other people I know. It's fun and it's useful, right? In case you are in a situation where you need a gun, right? If there's a bad guy going against you with a gun, the only way to combat him is with a gun, right? As Wayne LaPierre said, the only way to stop a bad guy with a gun is a good guy with a gun. Right. So it's very important to learn, and thankfully in the United States, it's one of our rights to keep and bear arms, and that's what makes one of the greatest parts of our country. In other countries in the world, if the government turns sour, and starts coming after their citizens for whatever reason, they have no way to protect themselves. Right. And it's happened throughout history. You have to be a student of history and see how these things develop, how these things happen. And a lot of these genocides and tragedies happen in countries that are disarmed.
Right. And the narrative about taking those weapons away and not having it supported in actual facts or data, taking guns away from law-abiding citizens, where in fact, obviously, they're not the ones that really need to be worried about. And you go to the range. I think it's funny, especially in in New Jersey, there's a lot of big guns. So you go to the range and you'd be surprised who's practicing. There's kids with, parochial school outfits on after school. They must get dropped off to shoot. And it's grandma and grandpa, or it's husbands and wives. And it's people. It's not like I don't want to classify, or a guy like me, or kind of rough around the edges, pulling up in my pickup truck with my gun and, my boots on. And it's of course we're there too, but across the whole spectrum of people learning how to shoot, learning safety, learning how to use their equipment. it's a cool hobby, and it's if done
It is,
correctly.
and it shouldn't, it's stigmatized in some ways by the media, and it shouldn't be. And as long as there's education, you're properly trained. You don't make it like a forbidden fruit to kids, because then they come after it and they seek it. Instead, you make it, a very responsibility oriented thing, where it's like, hey, you can use this with your parents, but treat it with respect, because this is a weapon. And you kind of raise them to respect firearms, then I think we'd have a much, a safer gun society.
Safer and more a little less paranoid around the topic. And honestly, that was one of the reasons I got into shooting, because they freaked me out. I was a chiropractor, and cops would put the gun on the desk, and I was like, is that thing going to shoot on its own? Or I would be nervous. So it was one of those things that, I'm going to learn as much as I can about something, and get rid of that fear. And it was so for people that are out there, go with someone that or take a course, and if it's something that you're afraid of, get familiar with firearms. So we've got the websites, which we'll include in these videos. There'll be links to them as well, so they're easy to get to. Want them to know how to connect with you in those two companies. But I also wanted to talk about your entrepreneurial spirit. And so there's two things, and you mentioned it a little bit in the last interview, as far as being prepared. Like, many people are in a state of fear, that they're preparing as if the end of the world is going to happen tomorrow. Okay. And I think you alluded to the fact that people shouldn't be in that mode. And the other thing is, other things to be prepared for as far as our finances. If it's not going to end tomorrow, there are some things that we could be doing right now with our finances, with our mindset, that could be really preparing ourselves for the long term, as things are changing, but maybe not overnight.
Right. Yeah. I think, last time we spoke, I kind of elaborated on having a side hustle. And I really do think it's important, no matter if you're a doctor or a lawyer, whatever your vocation may be, it's very important to have some sort of, alternative ways to make money. And because you never know what could happen. There could be a situation in society where there's massive layoffs, doctors, I think no matter what's happening, will always have a job, but maybe doctors are excluded from that. It's very important. And the great thing is, it's really never been easier to pick up something else and create an additional stream of income. I mean, literally, with the device in our pockets, the cell phone, you could sit there, record yourself knitting or whatever it is that your passion is, creating figurines or model making, whatever it is. You can create a YouTube channel and build a following. There's people out there that love exactly what you do. Show people how you do it. Show them the journey of you developing your skill set. And it's really just documenting what you're doing. You're not even creating, you're just documenting you experiencing your own hobby, and put it up on the internet. And it's a great way to build an audience. And then from there, you can get sponsors to buy ads. You can get ad revenue from Google AdWords, Google AdSense, etc. So it's really never been easier. And there's just so many things you can do.
I look at I'm sure it was much more difficult than the way I'll explain it, but how you modeled the two businesses you have here. You saw a need in the world. You know that people, to be prepared, they have to have this stuff and a little bit of education around it. But people are like, well, what do I know about a gas mask? I don't know how to. But it's not like you're making them in your garage, right? There's people that are making these things. So you become a middleman. Two things: you're creating products that people need, and you're also creating an online business. So if for one reason or another they shut us down again, you're still in business. And and that's the one thing I think people should understand, is creating different revenues of income to be prepared in case one of those revenues of income is no longer, you can't go to work, or your work gets shut down, or there is a crisis. So you can literally move anywhere in the world. And if you have an online business, okay, as one of your streams of income, if not your mainstream of income, you're kind of sheltered from those sort of things. I mean, Amazon.
Yeah, even with an online business, I'll add to that it's important to diversify in an online business. So when I started Mira Safety, we started off just on Amazon. And Amazon's really weird with tactical gear in general. There's this gray area with anything tactical and especially with respirators. So we got our Amazon account shut down like a few times, and we had to go through the process of reinstating it and everything else. And it's just a horrific experience when your entire livelihood gets completely shut down just because Amazon felt like shutting you down for whatever reason.
Some
So
bot
even
didn't like a
online,
word.
you should diversify, right? So if you have a YouTube channel that's successful, start building an email list from that YouTube channel. When you do your introduction, be like, hey, I want, I love talking to you guys. I love all my followers. So how about you go onto our website and you just sign up for our newsletter? And then that way you build an email list, and then that email list, you could send them whatever, content you have, and it doesn't have to be hosted on YouTube. You now own the relationship with your customer.
Yes.
And that is very, very important, because if you rely just on Amazon or YouTube or whatever third party you're using to kind of broker that relationship, then you don't really own your customer base, and your business could be taken away from you very quickly.
You could shift. You could.
Yeah.
Shift. I had. It's funny you say that. I started a blog. It was. I know you did cat toys, right?
Yeah. Cat toys.
So I had a dog blog, and
Okay.
and I had pay-per-click ads on there, and I was promoting things through Facebook, and it was like that was the business.
Mhm.
But all of a sudden, my Facebook ads got shut down for I don't even know why. Like it was one of those things. So if you're on YouTube and YouTube gets shut down, but you still have an email list, or you can house something on another platform, you're creating a little more flexibility in case something strangely shuts you down for a little while.
Right, exactly. And that's why I created the Mirror Safety website. Initially, our products were just on Amazon because, Amazon's taken up 50% of all e-commerce transactions all over the world. They're just gigantic. People come onto that website specifically to spend money. Right. And all you have to do is optimize. It's kind of easy. Like Amazon's a low hanging fruit for any e-commerce professional. However, they could shut you down at any moment. So we decided after a few, run-ins with the Amazon police, we decided to build our own website. And, thankfully now Amazon only accounts for about 30% of our revenue, where our website accounts for the rest. So our website's really strong, and that brings peace of mind.
And it's over time. So you start off somewhere, you get revenue from that. You start to see you got shut down for one thing, or even for a day. You say, you know what could I do to if that ever happens again? How else could I still exist? Website. And as you start to grow, and you grow, and you know what to do next. Right. But I think my point is, I don't want people to you see the end result and figure, well, I don't know. There's pieces to the puzzle. You started off as a side hustle. Right. An entrepreneur, right? If you have a job, you take, some of us call that sweat equity, your W-2 paycheck, and Des did a little bit of that to invest into some sort of small business hobby, right? And that's how it begins, connect. And people are doing that all the time.
Yeah, it's one thing I'll say is it's very important to be at the forefront of an industry and just like get started with something. Don't let analysis paralysis slow you down. A lot of people just, oh, well, I need to think about this, that. No, just put up the website, put up the product, and just go through with the motions. You're going to make many mistakes, but those mistakes are going to, you're going to be able to fix them and move on.
Well, you think of it this way, like what's going on right now, like think about 10, 15 years ago, to start a company, to start a business, what it would take is, as opposed to now. You can go somewhere, you can find products, whether it's in the cat business or the dog business or the whatever business, and you could start sourcing those products, who creates them, right? Get them at a good price, and you could start selling them, or you could even be an affiliate, right? You have enough of a following, you can affiliate with people. So this did not exist 15 years ago, right?
Oh no, like the internet is so powerful. I mean, expanding on what you said there. So let's say with cat products, right? And you're looking for a manufacturer of cat products. There's a great website out there called Import Genius. And with Import Genius, you could find any cat toy brand. So let's say it's like Meow, whatever, and you could plug them in and you could see exactly where they import products from and what the factory's name is. And you can get in contact with them and build your own relationship. And a lot of the times it's not necessary to be an inventor and create a product from scratch. You can contact the factory and make modifications to existing products that they have, and just present yourself as a knowledgeable marketer, a person who understands how to sell these products, and they'll work with you. Or if you want to take it to the next level, you can create your own mold, get an industrial designer to design a modified product, gather feedback on the internet about what people are actually looking for. And, Amazon, if you're getting into the product business, is an excellent place for feedback, because looking at any product, all you have to do is go into the bad reviews that products get, right? And within the bad reviews, people are saying, okay, well, this cat wand, it's not long enough, and the tip isn't furry enough, and it's not rigid enough. I wish it was made out of this material. And if you have enough people giving the same feedback on that product, then there's a market for that product which those people are telling you they want. So you go to the factory and say, hey, I want something like this, but you got to make this longer. You got to make it out of a different material, change the tip. And there you go. You have a new product that people want that will now be competitive in the marketplace because you surveyed the marketplace, not yourself, but through a competitor. You surveyed them and understood now exactly what they need.
Yeah, and you don't have to buy a ton of inventory, especially with Amazon, and they warehouse it for you.
So when I got into e-commerce on Amazon, we started off with like $1,000, right? We spent $1,000 on stickers, wall decals, like entrepreneurial quotes. It was like think big and dream it, wish it, do it, like a whole bunch of like entrepreneurial stuff. And they sold really well. And then, you take one product, you make it succeed, you move on to the next product. And then you just keep stacking more and more products. Some of them are going to be winners. Some of them are going to be losers. Our first products that we started off with, we're not working with them at all anymore, but it's evolved now, into a portfolio of products.
And they warehouse it for you. So you could technically call a vendor, then you have it shipped to Amazon distribution, and you never even have to touch the product, and you have your own little site on Amazon, and you're in business. So
yeah, most of Amazon, it can be found on Alibaba and AliExpress. Like, we don't manufacture in China, but we did start off with our stickers and some other products manufactured in China. Now we've moved to Europe because we just kind of changed our business model. But really, if you go on AliExpress or Alibaba, you can see those same Amazon products just labeled with something else.
Right.
And some marketer is sitting there, okay, I'm going to take this product, I'm going to call it this cool name, I'm going to give it this cool logo and slap it on there, and I'm going to get reviews. And how are most of these reviews generated? Usually by giving out free products.
Right.
You give free products out, people leave reviews. Even though Amazon frowns on that, they have their own program for that now called the Vine program, where you can allocate a certain stock to Vine recipients. They get it and they leave reviews. And then after that, it's just all, listing optimization. A lot of online business is listing optimization. And it's basically taking a website and adding enough information there to make somebody, make a purchasing decision. And they say on average, consumers look at 10 pieces of information, especially for higher end products, before they make a decision. So your goal as a marketer would be to add as many of those 10 pieces of information right there on that page. And it's just constantly optimizing, adding the right words so that the bots pick it up with the right words, adding nice pictures, and just optimizing it. It's really as simple as that.
It all could be learned. And so this is why I wanted to have this conversation today, because I knew that, you've kind of become one of our preparedness experts through your websites, which everybody can access. But I really also love the story, the fact that you saw a need, how you can fix people's problems. That's what an entrepreneur does, created a business around it, and you're sharing those same ideals with people. And I think whether we learn about being prepared and we utilize your services on the website, or we take away from this conversation the possibility and how easy it could be. I mean, everything takes work, right? But it's not out of people's hands to put some preparedness in their finances, create some security for themselves and their family. And you just your whole story just articulates that very well. I appreciate you being here today.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you for having me on. It's a pleasure to speak to you. And if you ever need additional commentary on entrepreneurship or survival stuff, I could definitely be a resource.
Well, I will be someone who takes you up on that. I love being able to bring people like you out, explain what's going on to our community. You've had great feedback from your program so far, and I do really appreciate taking the time today.
Excellent. Well, thank you.
All right, have a great day.
You too. Take care.